Is it better to be tall or small when you are an athlete? That is a question that has been asked and circulated around the media. We've looked into it recently, and it is one that BBC picked up and had a very long quote that I'm going to throw to my very articulate co-host, Jason Rubin. Take it away.
Thanks, bud. You only need to look at a basketball court or the racetrack to realize that longer legs are an advantage across many events. Longer limbs can cover the ground faster and they can reach further. What's more, in team sport like American football, taller players are able to look over the heads of their competitors, making it easier to pass the ball. Yet sometimes a smaller body can be a bonus. It takes less time for nerve impulse to travel the lengths of the limbs to their brains, meaning that their reaction time should be quicker and they may be more nimble, which might help certain martial artists like Jackie Chan. Random reference. It's also more cumbersome to bend and twist a taller body, whereas smaller people can achieve greater rotational acceleration, in quotes, meaning that they excel in gymnastics, snowboarding, skating, skiing, and diving. So I guess taller is great for action sports. They put in italics underneath that, the verdict.
In italics?
Depends on the sport. Italics, like it's...
In italics?
Italics.
In italics?
Italics.
Italics.
How do you pronounce it?
Is it Italy? Or is it Italy?
Italics. Italy.
Another one where Maxwell puts up another point.
Yeah,
on
you go take your aluminium and have some fun with that. By the way, Wikipedia also had advantages for tall and short people. Advantages for, we're being rude, below average height, also known as short. Faster reaction times, greater strength to weight ratio, faster limb acceleration, greater endurance, greater power to weight. Faster rational capability. Oh, I'm sorry, rotational. You're just a more rational. You're a more rational person. Greater agility, greater balance, and lower center of gravity, lower risk of heat exhaustion. That's like my favorite because LeBron James cramped up. Yeah. The second half of that for the, not tall, above average height. Francis, would you like to read?
Greater absolute strength, greater work capacity, and that is in brackets force multiplied by distance. Greater work per unit of time, longer reach, greater visibility, lower resting metabolic rate, lower heart rate, less likely to become dehydrated, greater speed and power due to mechanical
advantage. Because you're like a camel, you can store more water.
Yes, I think so. I think it's
or water.
So I think in an overall conclusive way, before we get into some of the details, it really does depend on the sport. Like, it does depend on the sport. You have freak athletes in both. Well, I think it does, but you have your own qualms, and I want to get to that in a second, right? So we have basketball. It's obviously an advantage to be taller, right? But at the same time, it is rare that you have small basketball players, and when they come around, it's almost like a gift. It's like they are freaks, special, like Muggsy Bogues and Nate Robinson, these guys that are very small but can still become adaptive to their sport. They've grown up being that height, so they've adjusted to make that part of their game a positive. Yeah. That's what I think. It not just comes down to what sport, it comes down to how you turn your height into an advantage. Lionel Messi uses his height as an advantage, not a disadvantage. Right. Low center of gravity.
If you take all the athletes from all the sports in America, the four major sports, hockey, basketball, baseball, and what am I missing? Football. Our football. American football, right? They're all tall. Yep. The average height is tall, or above average. I'm saying like 6'2", 6'3". Mm-hmm. Granted, there are guys like Isaiah Thomas in the NBA, both Isaiah Thomases actually, the Detroit Pistons ones and the Boston Celtics one, like Allen Iverson during his time, but that's like a freak anomaly for basketball. It happens once every few years. We're like, oh my God, he's 5'6". And he's made it. He's made like Muggsy Bogues. Like you can name him on like both hands. Yeah. All the extremely short players who made it in the NBA. For football, American football, quarterbacks are tall. Russell Wilson and Drew Brees were like the first of their kind that weren't 6 foot and made it. Linebackers are tall. Wide receivers that are taller are more advantageous. Calvin Johnsons, Brandon Marshalls of the world. Hockey, the defensemen are all tall. I don't see how it wouldn't. I don't see the disadvantage to being tall. In world football, it is different. It is. But then I look at guys like Zlatan Ibrahimovic, who is tall, and Manuel Neuer, who is tall.
Again, but I think it's more rare.
Diego Godin, who is lanky and tall.
It's rarer. Hard word for Scottish
people
to say.
Say rural.
Rural. It is rarer in world football that you will find a huge, someone who's really tall who is very talented.
I guess what is our reasoning for, like, what is tall?
I think
over
6'2"? For me, over 6'3" or 6'4", I think.
6'3", really 6'4".
Like, if you're 6'2", 6'1", Cristiano Ronaldo height, like, you're still tall, but and it's rarer, as I said, in world football to see someone like Zlatan than it is to see someone like Messi, in my point of view, because Messi has followed trait with Maradona, who was considered the best ever, who was small. Pele was not tall either. Sergio Aguero. And these players, it all depends on their environment. Trust me, there's not...
Look at the German national team. Look at the Argentinian national team. And look who won.
And that's it. And it comes down... This is even more in depth. We could be here all night. It comes down to the culture in which you're brought up playing football. You're brought up in South America. Your body is not considered to be the be-all and end-all of your football. You're grown up in Germany. You're big, you're strong, you're fast. You're trained to be like a machine. In Argentina, in other places in South America, you're grown up to focus on ball work. They're talented, they're low center of gravity, they move the ball well, they don't rely so much on their height. And that's why I think that guys like Messi, it's no secret and no surprise that Maradona and Messi and Aguero have came from the same country. It's no surprise that Beckenbauer, Müller and Neuer have all came from that country and they use their height to their advantage. It becomes how you adjust to it in world football as a whole. I maybe was a little harsh in saying it depends on sports. I think basketball, it's clear. That's why I mentioned it at the start. It's rare that you'll get a small guy.
Well, even the small guys are like, Steph Curry's 6'3".
Yeah,
it's not small.
It's so funny. When we go to games and you're like, he looks tiny. Like, and you watch him, he looks tiny. It's because he's next to DeMarcus Cousins, who's 7 foot, or whoever else, Dirk Nowitzki, 7 foot. But again, it's how you adapt to your height and turn it into your positive. The best players, the bottom line is, will overcome their adversity on their height and turn it into the strength, which is like Steph Curry, Messi. That's why I love watching these examples. But for world football, in my perspective, it's so... It definitely becomes on how you turn it around. Whereas I think in other sports like tennis, it's all about levers. So you could be 5'9".
Levers?
Yeah. What do you call them? Levers?
No, but like what's the
levers? Like like how you use your limbs.
Oh, okay.
So for instance, like if you're a tennis player that's maybe 5'10", 5'11", but you've got such a long reach, that's going to be an advantage.
All the guys that go bring it back to the NBA, all the guys with what I call rondo arms, their arms that reach below their hands reach below their knees.
Like, yeah,
because their wingspans almost it's if you read The Sports Gene, which is a great book, all about how like can people be built into athletes or are you born an athlete?
Yeah.
Right? And they talk about throughout most of it that the NBA guys, almost all of them have a larger wingspan than they do their height, which is rare amongst most people. Your wingspan is your height from tip to tip, right? Yeah. With the NBA, you have guys like Rondo who are 6'3", 6'4", and have 7-foot wingspans. Anthony Davis, Hassan Whiteside have these 7.5-foot wingspans.
One sport we never even talked about, which we should discuss right now because it's relevant, is UFC, right? So again, the reach is more like, so that's where I think height comes in, because it's obviously it's scientifically proven that guys that are taller can have
but in that sport, it's specific to your actual height and weight.
Yeah.
Well, not height, but kind of height.
Yes,
you don't see 6'5" guys fighting in the lightweight division.
But you will see guys like, for instance, McGregor fighting Nate Diaz now. Nate Diaz has got a long reach. It depends on how McGregor trained. I think McGregor's got a very long reach as well, but it's a guy like that trains to use that as his advantage. I don't think it necessarily becomes an advantage or disadvantage for that.
Which also is what, like when Pacquiao in his prime didn't have a reach. Yeah. He had to get inside and go quick and then get out.
So yeah, it's individual sport. You're separated based on weight class, and often you'll fight someone relatively similar to you. But again, team sports is fascinating.
I just don't know how many kids are growing up going like, I want to be 5'5".
Do you know how many Argentinians are probably like looking at Messi and being like, I can do that because I'm trained to be able to do that?
Right.
It's like, so it's an interesting subject, whereas other sports that I think was referenced in the BBC article was swimming. Like most swimmers are 6'4" and muscular because they have, again, levers. They have the massive levers.
Well, that quote was the one that had to do with sports. The others were just like, in general life, is it better to be tall or short? And they said, like, if you're tall, like over 6'5", you're going to run into knee problems and back problems and health risks when you get older. Also the same if you're short. I don't know. It goes into a lot of different sciences in which...
I think in general, you ask the public, they'd probably rather be taller. Like, they'd rather be... We're the perfect height, so there you go.
There you go.
What are you, like 5'11", 6 foot?
5'11" and a half.
Am I just a little bit taller than you?
Just a little bit taller. It's probably the hair. Your hair is
such a difference between being in the
taller.
5s and the 6s, though.
That's why I have to sit here when we get Hassan Piker on in his 6'4" status.
All right, well, we want to know what you guys think in the comment section below. As you know, we like to have these good discussions over here. So hit us up in that comments. Do you think it's better to be taller, or smaller in a specific sport? Get us on Twitter at JasonRubin91, at Francis_Maxwell, and subscribe to TYTSports.